With the BBC News at 10 o'clock, I'm Anna Preston. Strikes by ambulance workers belonging to the union Unite that were due to take place in some areas of England tomorrow and on Wednesday have been called off. Unite says it'll enter into pay talks with the government. Other unions representing ambulance staff, the GMB and Unison, announced similar decisions in the last few days. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have suggested that they've been invited to the King's coronation in May. A spokesperson for the couple said they'd been officially contacted about the event, but did not confirm whether they'd decided to attend. Draft legislation aimed at preventing anyone arriving in the UK on a small boat from claiming asylum is due to be announced later this week. Under the plans, ministers will have a duty to detain and swiftly remove anyone who comes through that route. The former Labour Home Secretary Lord Blunkett says new legislation won't change much.
Don't believe me, believe the last very tough Home Secretary Priti Patel, who's quite rightly said we don't need any new legislation because if you arrive without passport and papers, you are inadmissible and you're counted as illegal. If Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman don't know what their own legislation says, we are in a real pickle.
An international agreement to protect the world's oceans has been hailed by environmental campaigners as an historic breakthrough. If implemented, the UN treaty will create protected areas in 30% of international waters. Will McCallum from Greenpeace says one part of the treaty introduces rules about finding valuable resources in the deep sea.
Is it the new aspirin, the new drug on the market? Our concern was that whoever found these genetic resources was going to treat them just like private property and profit from them as a single company or as a single country. It was incredibly important that anything that was found in the high seas, which really belonged to all of us, that the benefits of it were to be equitably shared amongst all countries.
A huge fire has ripped through a two-storey office building and warehouse in Coventry. More than 70 firefighters from Staffordshire and West Midlands forces are attending the scene in the Walsgrave area. People nearby have been advised to keep windows and doors closed. Liverpool have thrashed Manchester United 7-0 in the Premier League at Anfield. It was the home side's biggest ever win over their rivals and United's heaviest defeat since 1931. Mohamed Salah got 2 of the goals, making him Liverpool's record Premier League scorer. Their manager Jurgen Klopp said he knew it was a freak result, but his players deserved it.
It doesn't fit really in this season so far, so even better it feels in a moment because it's so incredibly important for us. We need results, we need results, we need performances, and tonight we got both. Super performance from the start, a super performance.
You're up to date, it's 3 minutes past 10.
We are here, you are there, with our land back.
I'll tell you one thing, I'm glad I don't do sport tonight. Good evening, how are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
Heck you thump. I'm Alan Beswick. This is the Alan Beswick Late Night Phone-In, and a very good evening to you. If you want to join us, that's good, you can. You pick up your phone, you dial 0800 218 2255. Luke will almost certainly answer the phone to you. And when that happens, he'll take some very superficial details, none of which will be given to me. And he will then pass your details and your phone number to Talat, who will ring you when we're ready for you, which will be fairly quickly. We don't hang about, as it were. And so he'll ring you and make contact, explain to you what's going to happen if you've not been on before, and then he'll pass you over to Jane, who's in the studio, and she will then connect you with me, and we have the conversation. And all I have is the name that you're using. So I will just be told that whoever, Jim or Mary or whatever, is the next caller, and I go to that person. I know no more than that, and it might not even be your real name. You don't have to use your real name if you don't want to. And you know, we the team will need to know your real name, but I don't. So that's it. That's how it works. Dead simple. 0800 218 2255. We have news reaching us today that some of the Manchester bomb families who are desperately trying to find some solace for what they've had to live with, an outlet, if you will, for their anger and their pain, and a response to their fury at the failings of our emergency services. Anyway, some are said to be considering suing MI5 for negligence. The inquiry into what went on has suggested, indeed, been fairly clear that the MI5 missed a number of opportunities to deal with the murderer. Good luck to them. You sue MI5 because you think they failed you. Good luck to them. But even if they win, they'll just get money, really. That's what you get. Somebody might get told off at MI5, but not much more, I suspect. Solace, of course, comfort, and I've done everything I can sensation. That's much harder to come by, and quite frankly, may never, ever arrive. I mean, it really is horrendous what happened. Absolutely horrendous. But there probably comes a time, I don't know whether that time is now, because it's not me, but there probably comes a time when you think, well, I've done all that I'm able to do. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to happen. But horrible things do happen, as we know, regrettably. Scientists who are about to launch a super-duper telescope reckon that some sign of life out there may be found. And they reckon within a couple of decades. All I hope is that they don't find it before Putin's dead. Otherwise, that vile, bald reptile will want to invade them. And God alone knows how they'll respond. We're told today that Channel 4 is going to make a programme that will mock Prince Harry over his dad's coronation. Good! His royal barn-potness deserves all the lampooning we can muster. One day, he'll shut his money-grubbing gob and we can all get on with forgetting him. And in the news, our latest media scapegoat, Hancock, is reported to have launched a 4-letter word rant at Gove. See? I told you so. Nobody's all bad. A little vignette into my life. I've spent the past couple of days, not 8 hours a day, I don't do that, I do jobs in piecemeal, but I spent the past couple of days sandpaper in a garden chair, ready to repaint it for its summer trip to the bottom of the lawn, so I'll be able to snooze in the sunshine, which is one of my favourite habits. And it was quite funny because at last I've found a use for all those face masks the government told us would save the world. Whilst it's now being suggested wearing them was pointless. But I've got a whole box of them, so I can sandpaper away with long-charged alacrity. And somebody told me today that the barber shop in Penny Lane in Liverpool is quite possibly closing. It's not open at the moment. I used to get my hair cut there. I mean, it had no fame at the time, not to me anyway, but I used to get my hair cut there when I worked at the Smithdown Hospital, which is just up the road from it. And see, if it is going, like a very large part of Smithdown Hospital, to be fair, it's now an Asda for crying out loud, but it's another bit of real-world history leaving us, really, isn't it?
Penny Lane, there is a barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know, and all the people that come and go stop and say hello. On the corner is a banker with a motor car, the little children laughing him behind his back, and the banker never wears a mac in the pouring rain. Very strange. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There beneath the blue suburban skies I sit, and meanwhile back in Penny Lane there is a fireman on an hourglass, and in his pocket is a portrait of a queen. He likes to keep his fire engine clean. It's a clean machine.
If you know the area, you might wonder, why did I walk so far from Smithdown Hospital to get my hair cut at Penny Lane? The answer is that I lived comparatively close. I lived in a flat in Greenbank Drive. If you don't know that area, then you're sitting thinking, why is he blathering on about that? But then I guess you spend quite a bit of time wondering why he's blathering on about that anyway. It's what I do. Good evening, how are you? Excellent, so am I. Should we get on? 0800 218 2255. How do, Keith?
Hello, chocolate buttons. That has been a major event on John Gilmore all week, this week.
And?
Right. They all taste the same, apart from the orange ones.
I didn't even know
Because
they
they've
had
got
orange ones.
Well, they have, yes. It's quite amazing, but night after night after night, we got back to chocolate buttons, and everybody that's done the taste test, including Gilly, crunching on live on air, have all decided that that's quite correct. They all taste the same, apart from the orange ones.
Right.
Now, I come across a biscuit today for sale, and it's a double choc spotty cookie biscuit dotted with chocolate buttons, but almost all the buttons on the top are the orange ones. In other words, the tastiest. Because all the others taste the same. Now, whether there's other chocolate buttons underneath, I don't know. But
you don't know, and equally importantly, I don't give a damn.
Oh, well, that's normal then, isn't it? Right, I'll go on to something entirely different. 999 emergency line. Do you know how it was devised?
No.
No. Well, if the cable's wobbling about, they might miss a digit if they made it 111.
Oh, so you're not on about how it was devised, you're on about how they came up with the number?
Yes,
okay.
to get the most reliable signal to the emergency service.
Right.
Because don't forget, we're going back to the old dial tone here, where you had to whiz your finger round to get the numbers.
Was that? I mean, was it not 999 when you just had to say the number when the operator answered? When you pick up the phone, the operator said hello.
About that bit. I forgot about that bit. Oh dear me! Right, I'll try again. Do you know there's a Muslim ballet school just started for the first time ever?
Well, first time ever is quite a claim. There could have been one somewhere around the planet previously, but no, I didn't know.
No.
And why would I know? What?
Well, exactly. Typical of me, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Right, I'll get off now before I sink any further.
I think that's an impossibility, but thank you for your call. How do, Ray?
How do, Alan? I'd like to talk about road safety and some suggestions as to how it could be improved.
Okay.
Nobody under the age of 20 to drive any motor vehicle. That includes motorbikes, cars, mopeds, etc. When a person reaches the age of 70, that's it. They don't get the driving licence extended. They have to give up the licence when they're 70.
Why?
Why for both of them? Because a lot of accidents are caused by young, showing off drivers, and maybe the 3 years between the present 17 and the 20, which I propose, they grow up a little bit. When people get to a certain age, they tend to slow down. The reactions slow down, their eyesight's not what it was, their hearing's not what it was, etc., etc. And another suggestion I would like to see, part of the driving test, at least 2 lessons on the skid pan. Because most people, when they get into a skid, they panic, hit the brakes as hard as they can, and then they wonder why they lose control of the car.
Right. And how would being on the skid pan, which is good fun, by the way, but how would being on the skid pan get you so that you panic when you get into a skid? Because it's not as if you're going to have one the day after you've been on the skid pan.
It would teach the people what to do when they feel that the back end or the front end is going away, it would teach them to keep away from the brakes and to steer into the skid.
But if they're panicking...
I know what I'm talking about.
You may well. Go on.
I was a coach driver for quite a number of years.
Well, I was a driving instructor for quite a lot, and a coach driver and a bus driver.
I was just going on to say, after being a coach driver, I became a driving instructor, and I worked for myself for a number of years.
And I'm a bit concerned about this idea of no one below the age of, what was it, 20?
20.
Because we have, I take your point that some of the road accidents are caused by young people doing stupid things.
Quite a high percentage, yeah.
If you say, but when they get to 20, they're not that much more intelligent, to be honest. They're not that much more sensible.
Well, the 3 years, you've got to...
I know how long it is. I can do the sums. Right, I'm just saying, I don't think...
Let's make it 25. Let's make it 30. If you went to the extreme, nobody would be driving.
Well, that's the point I was working towards, really. You are never going to remove stupidity and
you're going to reduce it, though, I think, Alan.
Well, are you? Is the age the way? Is the age the arbiter in this, or is it something to do with the attitude of mind, which, quite frankly, is often not related to age?
I think that a lot of accidents, in fact, I know that a lot of accidents are caused by young 17-year-olds who just passed the test, especially, I passed my test at time, I know it, I'm a brilliant driver.
We did that. We did that bit earlier. I've moved on. You may not have noticed, even though you're involved. So I say, with the question I asked you, and you just went off on one saying 25, 30, 35, you'll end up with nobody driving. Let me ask you the question again, see if you can apply your brain a bit more substantially to it this time. How can you say that a person at 20 won't be equally stupid once he or she gets their driving licence for the first time? What have you got to offer?
Every individual is different. Some will be stupid throughout their life. I would hope that quite a fair percentage of people have matured a little bit in the 3 years between 17 and 20. It doesn't apply to everybody.
No, indeed it doesn't. But your law would. So maybe what we need to consider is it someone who has just passed their test at a low age that behaves like a lunatic, or is it somebody who's just happens to be young?
Everyone is different.
I know. That's why I'm aware that everybody's different, which is why I'm asking you about your blanket proposal, because it takes no account of the difference. It just says, under 20, you're stupid, you're not having a car. Over 70, you're blind and deaf, you're not having a car. It doesn't take any account at all of those who are good and those who are bad.
Well, I think it would help to reduce road accidents quite considerably.
But we can reduce them to... You've already made this point. You can reduce them to zero by banning vehicles. So
Indeed.
What we're looking for now is a policy which take into account a person's ability to use the vehicle rather than the age at which they use it.
Well, as I say, I think if you get rid of the very old and the very young, road safety would improve considerably, especially if they had a couple of lessons on the skid pan. That's my view for what it's worth.
OK, well, we'll see what others think. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you're over 70, Ray thinks you should not be allowed to drive a motor car. That's 5 years of my life screwed over, I'll tell you. He also says if you're below the age of 20, you shouldn't be allowed to drive any kind of motorised vehicle. You can get married, you can join the army and drive a tank, but you can't drive a Ford Escort. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Shafiq.
I'm okay, my dear friend Allan. I'd like to talk about Russia President Putin. Russia President Putin, he knew only Russia rule of law and Russia constitution. If he knew other country constitution and China constitution, he must be follow the COVID rule of law. He's not follow the COVID rule of law. I tell you one thing, 540 plague disease starts in 540. Then 570, God Messenger Muhammad born. And that time is a plague disease. Many thousand people die in this world. Now, if Jesus Christ coming in this year, when coming, then he in this year, in the present time, many religions. Then what's happened after that when Jesus Christ coming must be follow the rule of law and constitution. And British constitution, mother of all constitution. British parliament, mother of all parliament, all students knew that. So we student can't forget graduate we can get degree from university, Mr. Putin. To follow the British constitution, man, British rule of law, they already made it in this year. And religion book already made it.
I think suggesting that President Putin should follow the English constitution is likely to cause more war, not less.
He is the UN Security Council member, man.
I am aware of that, but thank you for reminding me. Do have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Want to join us, you can. You can talk about anything, no matter how odd it might seem, or indeed how amazingly intelligent it might seem. All is welcome. 0800 218 2255. Remember correctly? I don't normally know things like that. I'm quite pleased with myself, unless I'm wrong, in which case, just another day. But Ukukichu in the middle of it. I mean, you've reached the point of, I'm not really finishing this song properly, am I? I'll just say Ukukichu. That'll get me through. And that rhymes. You could have just said, that'll get me through. It wouldn't fit, but then does Ukukichu fit? Probably not. Very strange. And then Joe DiMaggio. I know. He, by all accounts, was a baseball player. How he got into the song, I don't know. Perhaps there was some reference to it in the film. I don't know that either. So I've not really been a lot of help to you so far, but I don't really see that as my job. 0800 218 2255. How do Anthony?
Oh, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
I haven't seen The Graduate for about 20 years. You know, the film with Dustin Hoffman. And now I want to see the references, you know. Joe DiMaggio, the baseball player. I'm thinking, I can't remember a reference to him. But anyway. Yeah, no, Ray rang before about driving. And, of course, he'd probably ban you because you're far too old now.
Not quite so, yeah. He would.
You know, but I think, I mean, I've been with some 17-year-old drivers who have been very responsible, and there's, I think there's still a few thousand drivers who are over 100 who still have their full driving licence. They might have to take a test again every 3 years, but they're still driving, you know? So you've still got 25 years, 27 years left.
Indeed. When you say they might have to take a test again, do you mean that they do? I've no idea.
They do. Oh, yeah, they do. They have to take a test, I think, every 3 years. I'm not...
Right. Who's they in that sentence? They have to take a test every 3 years?
People over 70.
No, they don't.
You didn't. Oh, good grief, it used to be that way. Anyway...
No, it didn't.
No.
You are required. Your license, your driving license, expires. Certainly the modern one. If you've still got the old paper one, I'm not sure. But your driving license expires at the age of 70, and you have to reapply for it, and you have to do that every 3 years. But you don't have to take a test. You just say, "Yeah, I'm all right."
Oh, God. Oh, forgive anybody who was listening to that and thought, oh, good grief, I'm going to have to take a driving test every 3 years after I'm
No, they're not.
70.
It's
a load of nonsense.
It's as much to do with preventing loads of what you might call unattached driving licenses, so that people can personate, personate's just for elections, but people can say, well, here's my driving licence, I'm Albert Ecclethwaite or what have you, and they've never taken a test in their life, so they can use the driving licence as a piece of ID when they could be 110 years old.
If they can get a taxi there, don't suffer from, too much senility or whatever. By the time I hit that age. Well, no, fair play. Oh, by the way, it did make me think about my dad. He started off at the tank regiment when he was 20. He'd already got his driving test for cars. But anyway, in the first 2 weeks for the British Army, he wrote off a tank.
That's not easy to do.
Well, somehow he found... My grandfather, somehow, his dad, was just by coincidence, just happened to be visiting. He was laughing his head off. But I don't think the British Army were too happy.
No, they probably... It depends how you do it, I guess. But what can you do to write off a tank? They're quite sturdy. Most of the things you come in collision with come second. If you're driving along and a Ford Escort gets in your way, you may well drive right over the top of it and kill the occupants. But you won't do the tank any harm. You'll marmalise the car. But you won't do the tank any harm. I don't know how you write one off.
Well, I think my dad said the gears are in reverse. Oh, God, you might know this better than I
know nothing about tanks other than they're best avoided.
But I think, well, yeah, especially if they're coming towards you. But the gears are they're completely backwards to what they are in a car. So if you're used to driving a car, you're trying to put this vehicle in, first gear or whatever, and then you're going in reverse. And God knows, again, as you kind of implied, God knows how you write a tank off.
Quite. I mean, if you throw it into reverse instead of forward and you crash into something, it will come second. A building. You crash into a building. They're designed to crash into buildings and have things fall on the top of them. That's their job. But you could write off the gearbox, but that would just mean putting another gearbox in.
No, he did. He wrote off the whole tank. That's why he got moved to being a radio operator in south of Germany, in the middle of a forest, out the way and out of trouble. As the British Army do and did, they'll move you where they want you to go.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's called following orders.
Exactly. So they stuck him... they probably thought, oh, good grief, we're going to have to put this guy in the least trouble he can get into. So,
I don't think they think like that.
Well, do you want to write off a tank every 2 weeks?
Well, I'm still absolutely mystified as to how one can do such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody else who's driven tanks who listens to this show, I'd be quite interested myself, because I'm thinking,
well, let us hope somebody.
Can you write off?
Yeah, I have serious difficulty considering it, but there you are. Did anybody die in the incident?
No. I think they were just really annoyed. A new recruit wrote off a £300,000 tank in today's money. But you've got to remember, he was 20, and it's not. It's just experience, with driving, I think. Skid pans. I think, did Ray mention a skid pan, or did you?
He did. He said everybody should have 2 lessons on a skid pan.
Yeah, I think they should do, because then you get a feel for how a car operates properly. I did that when I was about 18, 19. And,
yeah, I mean, it's good fun. You want to try it with a double-decker bus. They nearly fall over. They don't, but they nearly do. But they don't even, as far as I'm aware, even the London Transport don't put their drivers through a skid pan anymore.
they did do. Did they do that with you? If you don't mind me asking.
I wasn't a London transport driver, but no,
I know that.
when I went on the Ribble, they didn't, but I did one just for the fun of it, really. A group of us had the opportunity, and we said, "Yeah, we'll do that. That sounds fun." But they feel as if they're going to fall over.
Very difficult to make a bus fall over. I don't think people know how well engineered they are.
Oh, they're extremely well engineered, but if you put a lot of effort in, you can make it fall over. but we couldn't manage it on the skid pan, because in order for you to make it fall over, in order to make a bus fall over, first of all, you're only ever going to do it sideways. You can't do it front or rear, because that's the nature of its shape. It's got to be moving sideways, and then have something stop it moving sideways, as it were, at the bottom. Hitting a curb's not enough, but something solid that stops it continuing in its journey sideways, and then the roof carries on going sideways. So that's how you make it fall over. But I don't know that's ever managed it.
I tell you what, my dad's still driving his car. I'm going to ask him, Dad, do you want to try driving a bus? Before you lose your license.
Why not ask him? How did you write off a tank?
I know. Oh yeah, I've got to ask him that as well.
Yeah, please do.
How exactly did you write off a tank?
Yes, because we're all mystified. Well, I can only speak for me, and I completely am.
I'm mystified as well. But I don't think I'll suggest a thing about the bosses. But I will ask him anyway next weekend, because
if you know the answer by then, do let us know.
I know I will do, Alan. Okay, enjoy the rest of the evening. I will do listening to.
Have a good night. How do Neil?
Oh, hi, Alan. Yeah, I'm ringing about the call centres, but I'm on about the tank thing. I've got a good idea, because I'm ex-army, like you were. Like, I was electronic technician. Control equipment would bring me, and control equipment. That means mainly tanks. You do electronics in tanks. So I did get a chance to drive a few. Give me a do. When we're on in the field work. Just have a do. Yeah. So I can't understand what the previous gentleman called what he was on about, because the only way you can write a tank off really is steer it over a large gap and then fall down about 500 foot or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, what else is there? The Challenger 2 now. The 40 million pounds worth of that, they are solid. So you can that's the name of a tank, isn't it? That's what it's meant to be for. So the only way to drop it, drop it down a big cliff or something, and then it,
Well, I can't imagine any other way, really. Unless you blow it up.
I'm thinking that.
Perhaps you write it off. But if you write it off by doing something wrong with the armaments contained within, then you're not going to tell anyone how you did it on account of being blown to smithereens.
Well, you're not, are you? Yeah, because unless. So my thing, Alan, is about call centres.
Okay.
It's about 30 years ago when I first come across calls. I'm 58 now, so I'm 28 then. It used to be UK, only in UK, but now they've gone. I think there's 4 places all overseas where you think about your electricity, your telephone, or whatever, and it's all that. And I know that because of austerity now and that, and you might get upset, but you don't. I'm thinking, listeners, you won't get anywhere if you start yelling down the phone at someone.
Well, that's true.
No matter in the UK or the or abroad, I was saying. When I back ago, to record and whatever it is, then I just. While they're bringing your computer files up, because I just said, "Oh, whereabouts are you?" And if he gets onto football, we're a football team, like, you know. It seems to be at the end of it, or during it, you know, you're having a good chat.
Yeah, some do, some don't. Some of them are quite content to just get on with their job and not engage in conversation. And some of them are told they're not allowed to.
Well, it would be you know, because you want the you know, that many people through. You can, but I mean, it's good customer service when you can have a chat. I mean, I've been on once, and I was on with a lady, somewhere, and we were chatting for 1.5 hours, just not about the electricity.
Right. Well,
yeah, I mean, we
I find that extraordinary. You know. Well, it's not a good thing because. Well, it was for you, but what about the 25 other people she should have spoken to while they were waiting for you to finish your pointless chat?
Well, she hadn't. No, it wasn't pointless.
Well,
making friends, but there was 99 other people.
Apart from the business part of it, the rest of it was just chatting, and she's not the social services or the Samaritans. Her job is to answer your questions, deal with your problem, and then go to the next one. Otherwise, there's some poor schmuck sat there at the end of a phone hearing, we really like you, and we'll get to you as soon as you can. You're 97th in the queue.
Well, no, but it's good customer relations, and I think.
Well, no, it's not, because the 99 people have been sitting there thinking they never answered the bloody phone. They're not fully customer related. They're really peed off, and you're happy, but the 99 that you've kept waiting, they're less than happy. Right. So it's bad customer relations.
So in that case, what you're saying? They're saying that if you get through to call centres, wherever they are, that, you know, and then it's hello, what do you want? What's it about? And that,
well,
and
no,
then
they don't have to. They don't have to be curt. They just don't engage in personal. How are your children? Oh, they're awfully well. How many have you got? 7? Oh, my word, that is quite good. How many have you got? Who gives a stuff? You want your bloody electric turning on or off or whatever.
Oh, yeah, well, that's while they're waiting for the computer to come through, and then it takes while they were
so the computer took an hour and a half to come through. You said you were engaged in a conversation for an hour and a half.
I said on that one occasion, that was not...
Right, so you were engaged in a conversation for an hour and a half. I wonder if the person you were chatting to still got their job.
I'm just saying, whatever, I mean, I'm just trying to relax, whatever, but see, I was just saying to you, listen, whatever, well, you yell down the phone at people,
well,
which some people do.
I agreed with you. I agree with your first point. No, well, you may not, but it's not comfortable. You won't like it. Just have a normal conversation. But if that conversation goes on for an hour and a half, these people are sitting there connected to a computer, and someone will say to them, why did that conversation take an hour and a half? He only wanted to know what his bill was. We know that because we got a recording of it. All our calls are recorded, you might remember. Yeah. And so they say, you're wasting our time. You're not paid for that. Goodbye.
Yeah, well, that's all about money, in it, you know, all about efficiency.
Exactly, so.
And that,
it is about...
But, yeah, I think it's better to be nice and that. Bye-bye.
Well, I agree. We're having a different conversation. You're saying it's better to be nice, and you're right. What it isn't better to be is to take hour and a half chatting about the bloody weather with somebody who, A, you don't know, B, you never will meet, and quite frankly, are going to lose their job for the trouble of you doing it. But never mind. 0800 218 2255. How do Joe?
Hi.
Hi.
Now, this is something that I need to ask you, and other people could be interested. Why does it cost more to shear a sheep than the farmer gets for the wool?
Well, because nobody wants wool anymore.
Well, now listen, since synthetics have become more popular, wool prices have dropped. And synthetics aren't half as warm as wool. Now, you never see a sheep shivering, and that should tell you something.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, people seem not to want wool anymore. And so that's why it costs more. It shouldn't cost more. They should be able to sell it. And they're doing their level best, the farmers, to find lots of other uses for wool. I saw a programme some time ago where they were trying to use it as insulation in properties, and that's one way forward. But
it sounds a good idea, but then the moths could get in it, so it might not work unless they could put some.
The problem is, the reason it costs to shear it is because the person doing it wants to be paid. The reason it has to be sheared is because the sheep have been bred in such a way now that they have fleeces that, if they're not removed, would eventually kill them. So they have to be removed. And the problem is that nobody wants to buy the fleece. So that's why it costs more to shear it than it does. It's greater.
The thing is, they've got to have the wool on them to keep them warm in the winter.
Well, yes, they do, but the wool then has to be taken off, apparently.
Yes.
And what used to happen was it used to be taken off. Indeed, some sheep, one of the problems our sheep have, as it were, was many of them were bred for their wool. So they've been, over time, genetically engineered to produce a lot more wool than they normally would. And so now it's got to the stage where they've got too much wool, and if they don't shear them, that wool will eventually kill them. So they've got to shear them.
It won't kill them because it drops off automatically. If you don't shear them, it just drop off.
In that case, you know an awful lot of stupid farmers. They're shearing sheep when they don't need to. That would be silly, wouldn't it? So the question shouldn't be, why does it cost more to shear them than they can sell the wool for? The answer is they can't sell the wool, so don't do anything. It'll fall off, apparently.
Well, it does, but it falls off in bits and pieces. And it's
it doesn't matter, does it? The farmer doesn't care.
It's not good when they have the lambs and there's a lot of loose wool about, so they need to be sheared.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, let's see if anybody else knows. But not that long since, a few years ago, China started buying it, but that seems to have gone quiet.
I'm just reading an article, which is probably absolute nonsense. Primitive sheep like bighorns in the west still shed most of their wool every year. Domestic sheep, the ones raised primarily for their meat, will do some shedding, but for the majority of sheep, there is a continual year-round wool growth.
Yes.
So if you don't shear them, it will just grow and grow and grow, and you end up with this dirty, great big bale of wool with a little leg sticking out at each corner and maybe a nose.
Anyway, we'll see if anybody else has any interest, because actually it's so much warmer. I mean, if you get a woolly jumper, it's a woolen jumper, it's so much warmer than synthetics. It really is. I always look for wool.
I'll just tell you a bit more about a sheep. Over time, unshorn wool could eventually impede movement. Sheep can overheat and die in the summer months if not shorn. They also become target for parasitic species such as ticks, lice, mites, and the maggots that cause fly strike. Like I said, if you don't shear them, it'll kill them.
Yeah. Well, you're probably right there. Do not get maggots.
It's not me. I'm on about them overheating because they've got more and more and more on wool. And as you said, it's a very good insulator.
Yeah. But it used to be a very useful commodity because people had woolen blankets. Wool blankets.
Yorkshire, of course, was famous for it. Many of the industrial centres of Yorkshire started out as places that processed wool.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't anymore.
No.
Regrettably.
So I don't know. It's something that they started doing with it in China. I don't know what it was, but they were buying it, but it seems to have gone quiet. That.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Let's see if anybody else knows.
They may, but good to hear from you, Joe. Thank you. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Mike.
On the topic of the rather dubious song lyric, Cuckoo Cuckoo, can I also mention to you that this occurs in the Beatles thing, I Am the Walrus.
Indeed it does. But then that's a nonsense song.
It is a nonsense song. But what might be interesting to you is that to know which came first, Mrs. Robinson or the Walrus. And I think Mrs. Robinson was released in the film was available in 1966, and the other one, I think, Walrus, was 1968. So was it the Beatles acknowledging Simon and Garfunkel in some messagey sort of way?
It's hard to know.
No, interesting.
I wonder if Simon Garfunkel said, "I wrote that line, give us £1 million."
Yeah. But you know, your critique of it is thoroughly justified. I mean, most song lyrics don't stand up, even, I'm afraid, in a very, very good song, like the one you've let us hear twice in recent times, Sad Cafe, where he talks initially, Allan, about seeing the lamplight in her window, but not thinking she'd be there on her own, and so he goes up to her house. Well, you know, it don't stand up, does it?
I've never really put any effort into the lyrics.
I was thinking of mentioning. I dismissed earlier in the day thoughts about that. I thought, but with this business come up about the lyrics, I just want to point out that in very, very general terms, there are so many lyrics that just don't stand proper analysis.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But then they're about noises, aren't they, really? It's not opera. They're not telling a tale of any magnitude.
On an interesting change of subject, can I take it, as I have done for rather a long time, that 8 o'clock on Tuesday and or Sunday evening at 5 o'clock are times of secular communion in your household?
Well, we don't have secular communion. What are they? You mean file on four?
What I mean is file on four, yes.
No.
Oh, don't you listen together?
Well, I often listen to it.
Good. Well, right. Does Mrs. Allan...
I don't answer questions like that.
Oh, dear. Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, all right, a quick one. What did you make of tonight's, this afternoon's broadcast?
I only heard a bit of it, and it's not fair for me to give comment, but I don't like... I don't like the file on... I don't like overstating it. I prefer file on 4 to tell me something extravagantly valuable, and often they're narrative. And I think narrative is more newsy. And I can get the news out of the papers.
Right. Had that thing been reported very widely, this what she was talking about this afternoon, about the disappearance of this rugby union player?
Well, it's a good subject for a documentary.
Yes.
I have File on 4 has changed in that they do more news stories than analytical reportage than they used to do, and I preferred and still prefer when they do them, which is most frequently the analytical reportage than a narrative, a news story. Yes, it's an important story that this rugby player's disappeared, but other news media can do that without File on 4. But I'm not the editor.
Would you like to give me, so that it becomes just a little bit clearer, when you say reportage, do you mean analysis, say, of nations, different countries, how they live, that sort of thing?
Well, no. The story in question is a rugby player's gone missing.
Yep.
And that is, without a shadow of a doubt, an important news story. But it's a news story. It's this happened, did that happen, what did happen? It's that. There's no analysis about it. If it was a story analysing, for me, I'm just talking about me now. If it was a story analysing about how the way the authorities went about it and why they went about it in that way, what is the reason for that, what policy led them to take that position, that's for me a much more interesting programme for that specific programme itself, that series, if you like. There's a lot less analysis of thought rather than analysis of event.
Yes.
An analysis of an event is news.
Yes. Can you give me a rough idea to fill 43 minutes of hard radio, national network, quite a bit of effort involved. Basically, how much time is one given to prepare such a programme?
I don't know the schedule for File on 4 these days, but they used to work. But they don't, as you possibly know, they're not there every week of the year. But during programme time, the turnaround used to be 4 weeks. So you research the story, establish the story, go out and do the interviews and the recording and everything else for the story. You come back, you edit the story, you write the script for the story, and then you broadcast it. And it used to be a 4-week turnaround. Whether it is still that, I haven't the faintest idea.
Well, that's fascinating, isn't it?
Well, what they used to say, and I only know this because I knew some of the people that worked on it and the editor. And what they used to say was, to make a half-hour documentary, it's not easy, it's bloody hard. To make a half-hour documentary takes a certain amount of effort. To make a 40-minute documentary, you want something more than this is what happened. Because otherwise you're just saying this is what happened. You're just basically stretching the event.
Yes. So, gosh, 4 weeks. Yes, I tried to work out with myself how quickly I could, with colleagues, could produce something, say, about the history of Braille or something of that, or the history of typewriters, which I'd love to do. That's that kind of stuff. I thought it probably would be 4 or 5 working weeks. Very interesting. Thank you for that.
But you would be, if you were doing that kind of programme, I can't see that being a File on 4. That is a historical reportage. You don't have to go anywhere. You might go to somewhere to interview people, but you don't have to find the story. The story's already there.
Well, it's UK based, one would assume.
Well, it depends where the typewriter was invented, doesn't it? But
it was America.
But the information.
Latham Shoals.
But the information is already there. All you're doing, if you're making a documentary about the invention and the development of the typewriter, all you're doing is saying this happened and that led to this change and that led to this development and that one came along. For example, they used to use them on File on 4. They used to have portable typewriters which used a heat tape. And so when you press the key, a little heat thing, instead of having a clickety-clackety typewriter, it was a heat tape, the early days, if you went. A thermal, exactly. So it's all that going on. So you would do all that, but all you're really doing is getting it from books, getting it from encyclopedias, getting it from museums and from academics in that field. That's all you're doing. You're not analysing the workings of a typewriter, you're telling the story of how it came about.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to examine government policy on something, that's much harder because it's not yet set.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more thing? I can't resist telling you that I have got one of those little thermal fellows upstairs.
So have I.
Oh, great.
Well, it's not mine, but yes, we have one.
Yeah. All right. The final thing I would dearly like to mention to you. Somebody quizzed you slightly last night about the local radio strike. Well, will it mean that there's sort of curtailed local radio broadcasting on one specific day?
Well, the answer is I don't know. I'm not involved. I'm not in the building, so I have no idea. What has happened in the past is that the management, who of course are not in the same union or indeed not going on strike, I would imagine, do the best they can to put out a limited schedule. It's still programmes, but a limited schedule. That's what's happened in the past. What's happening this time, I have no idea. It doesn't involve me.
But frankly, Alan, does anybody yet know what is supposedly going to happen after May?
That's a complicated question to answer, because there is a plan, there is a project, and that project is underway. Now, the idea that BBC Local Radio will change, it won't change in every area at the same time, because that's a massive undertaking. So it will change at different parts of the year, but they'll all be undergoing the same change, and the process is underway. But we're talking about 40 places, give or take, that employ 50 people. So, and plus extras who are freelance like me, but 50 people effectively. So that's an awful lot of people and an awful lot of premises and a lot of airtime that's got to be organised. So it takes a long time. But what's going to happen after May, I've no idea. I don't know what's going to happen after Sunday, and that's only an hour off.
Gosh, is there any chance that they will offer you a position where, say, in the evening, you will appear on many, many more networks?
As it stands presently, people have to apply. Because you've got staff. I'm not staff. You've got staff, and the BBC is very, very good with its staff, and so it will give the staff the chance to apply for the jobs that are coming up, because the jobs are changing for all the people. So you would have to apply, and there is not a cat in nails chance of me applying.
Oh dear. Right, okay. Right. Listen, thank you for your tolerance and for your interesting conversation.
Have a good night. Don't lose that typewriter. It'll be worth £1 million one day. I'm hoping. 0800 218 2255. How do Russell?
Hello, Alan. Yeah, you were on about the buses earlier. And the tanks. I'm a volunteer at the Commercial Vehicle Museum at Leyland. We have a London bus in, and it's some of the tanks they used to show on television sometimes going on the skip pan.
Yeah, fantastic.
It was fantastic. There was a guy called a broadcaster, Richard Dimbleby. He took one round on the skip pan. And we have one in the museum there. It's a beautiful machine, but also tanks. Leyland used to make tanks during the war, and then when the war finished, they had one factory in Leyland just made tanks. And when the war ended, they closed the factory down, and then the Korean War came on, so they had to reopen the factory. Until recently, they were still making tanks.
Blimey.
And the tanks were made in Leyland, and the gun turrets and everything had to go to Leeds to be fitted.
Yeah.
So, Leyland, I never knew until I went to the museum. They made a lot of tanks during the war, but there was tanks and buses, that's what you were talking about before. Just wonder
we ended up in that conversation because of because of that chap saying that his father wrote one off.
Wow, how'd you write a tank off?
That was you. I was hoping you'd tell me, because that was exactly my question. How the hell do you write a tank off?
My late father was in tanks during the war, and he went through 5 tanks.
Yeah, but I don't suppose it was because he was crashing.
No, I think it's something to do with the Germans chucking stuff at them.
Exactly, I can see that.
They were a bit naughty doing that. And we got to the 6th tank, and they all had names.
Yeah.
And we were going through Windermere one day, and there's a hotel there called Ellery. Oh, she said that's what the name of my father's tanks were, Ellery.
Wow.
And he got through to number 6. And then when they got to 6, they split the crew up, and he was the only one that survived.
Crikey!
And he was wounded during the invasion, Normandy. And when he came back, when he went back into action, my lovely partner, late partner, she was on the way. Thank God to the Germans, but that's another story. But the tanks are all sorts of, they're all sorts of things. I always thought they were like just Sherman tanks, but there were lots of like Leyland tanks.
Yeah.
Cromwell, anything with a C in it was a Leyland, Leyland built tank.
Brilliant.
And the Germans, a lot of our tanks were run off petrol, and the Germans knew they were petrol, so they aimed for the fuel tank, and they called them Tommy cookers. or Ronsons.
Yeah.
One man told me, we used to call them Ronsons because they used to go like a lighter, the Ronson lighter.
Yeah.
Good but tanks are, and still recently, Leyland was Leyland versions tanks were being made. But and then they used to have a test track at Leyland, and they'd take people around the test track on double-decker buses, and they had a bank part like Brooklands bank thing, and they stopped the bus on the bank track, and it was leaning over quite a way, but they never turned over. They really
they have. I don't know what it is. They used to say it was concrete in the chassis, strung below the chassis to keep the centre of gravity down. I don't know how true that was, but they certainly have a very, very low centre of gravity.
Well, Leyland made that Atlantean, the rear engine.
I remember,
bus,
I used to drive them.
It had a low deck, and it was also, they could take an engine out of that in half an hour.
I know, it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah. That was great for maintenance, and they're still going around. I think they're
still going around. Yeah, they were very strange to drive for the first time, because everything you've ever driven, car, bus, whatever, you're sat there in a seat, and there's all sorts in front of you.
Yeah.
But the Leyland tank, you're basically sat in the window.
Yeah.
It's basically the bottom of it is just a rectangle, and the wheels. The steering wheels are behind you.
Yeah.
Whereas because you're hanging. Pardon?
I don't know. But hello.
When you were driving an ordinary bus, a bus that we all the Route Master that you've just referred to, the London one, or some of the others, you're driving it like a lorry. The wheels are below you, or you're behind the front wheels, and you're steering from behind it. With the Atlantean, the steering wheels were behind you. You were in if you like, hanging over the wheels. The wheels were actually not underneath you, but behind you. So when you turned, you had these strange things that you didn't turn in the same way that you do in an ordinary vehicle, where the driver follows the wheels. With an Atlantean, the wheels turn, and you. It's as if there's a camera doing the turn.
Apparently, when they put them into production, apparently lots of the gearboxes were wrecked because they were like either semi-automatic or automatic.
Yeah, but they were called pneumocyclic.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. It sounds like they worked off air, but they're a pneumocyclic gearbox. So you put this little titchy little gear lever in place, and it did everything else.
Yeah, like I say, we have one in the museum. We belong to Beswicks, which was a Leyland company, and it had been on the road for about 40 years. It came into the museum, and some children climbed into it and wrecked the gear stick.
Oh dear.
Lovely things, but it's a tiny little gear. So when you look at it, how did it was so advanced. Was that advanced? With the low deck. I mean, you get most buses now are low deck, and they lower themselves hydraulically. But
I know.
The Atlantean must have been so far in front. And
it's had a kind of slope. You were sat there taking the fares, and if somebody come in and dropped a coin, it rolled off the bus because the deck was basically hanging downwards, as it were. Very strange.
But that was the thing that Leyland did when they went to these commercial vehicles. They had 4 expert mechanics working on them to demonstrate how quick they could take an engine out.
Yeah.
And it was half an hour. They could take four fitters could take an engine out in that land. They had a forklift truck there lined up to lift the engine out, but it was still good for maintenance.
They could get to it.
Yeah.
Used to, with its predecessors, or many of them, the old half deck, as it was, the half cab, as it was called, it was like a car. You lifted up the bonnet, and then you have to get a step ladder to go and try and work on it. Well, the Atlantic.
Well, the London bus we have in the museum, they used to have a big service depot in North London, and it went after 3 years service. It went into the service there, and there's only 4 bolts holding the body on. They lifted the body off, any dents, and they repaired them elsewhere. And then the engine, gearbox, and whatever would be checked over, brakes, what have you. And then the body would come back. It wasn't necessarily the same body.
Yeah, it didn't have to be, did it, really?
They were interchangeable, but the bus we have in the museum it's the same body. It's the original body.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic sort of thing. And it was in service for about 25 years.
They do some miles, don't they? They do
bus.
some miles.
It was semi-automatic, the gearbox.
Yeah.
Even though no clutch on it, so driving around London, it must have been fantastic. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very strange. Very strange.
Okay, Alan, thank you very much for listening to me.
It's all right. Good to talk to you, Russell. We're swinging the lead a bit there, weren't we? I'm sorry about that. The most interesting vehicle I've ever driven was a coach, and it was very strange. I've not seen many of them. It had 3 axles, and usually with 3 axles you got 1 axle at the front and 2 at the back, but this had 2 axles at the front and 1 at the back, and when you steered, you were steering with these 4 front wheels, which was peculiar. I don't know how they did it, because there'd have been tyre drag and all sorts, but if they didn't do it, but they had it all worked out. But at the back, the overhang was about 8 foot. And so, as is always the case with a vehicle, when you turned right, the front, if we say the front driver's side, when you turn right, it moves to the right. But the rear offside, the rear non-driver's side, turns to the left, which normally doesn't matter because it's a tiny amount, but with that, it could be as much as 6 foot. People, when they first got in them, knocked things over with them. But there you go. It was a strange bus to drive, but good fun. How do Tony?
Hi, Alan. You okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. You were talking about that lady before, sheep and wool as a commodity.
Yeah.
The commodity I'm on about is gold.
Right.
How does it happen, gold? It comes from one place, I think, maybe, South Africa mainly.
I think it comes from a variety of places, but yes, South Africa is predominantly it. There's even a gold mine in Wales.
Well, they've got warehouses full of it.
They may well have, I don't know.
But why is it a backup for every economy in the world? And they've got to have backup in bullion, Britain,
I don't know whether it still is. I don't know that the sort of gold support for a currency is still existent. I think I don't think it used to be the case that in order to have, for want of a number, £10 billion worth of currency flying around the UK, there had to be £10 billion worth of gold in a vault somewhere. And it used to be that those vaults, those vaults had the gold for quite a lot of currencies around the world. But I don't know that they are now supported by gold.
All right, Alan. So, I don't know that. So what's the backup now then if it's not supported by gold?
I'm not sure that there is one. I think it's on what you might call the floating currency market. So your currency has the value of what someone will pay for it, which is why each day you get a report on BBC News bulletins saying the pound today is worth this much. Yeah. But if it was backed by gold, it would always be worth the same amount. But it isn't. I think it's just what people will pay for it. It's just a buyable and sellable commodity called currency.
It's been that way for a long time.
I don't know when the one detached from the other, as it were, but yes, it has been a trading commodity.
All right, Alan, thank you for your time.
Right. I hope I'm right. Economists will put me right if I'm not, I'm sure. 0800 218 2255. How do Lindsay?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been watching Match of the Day, and I was just wondering, did you know when it doesn't show the timing of when they're playing?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, you know when it's a live match.
Yes.
They show the timing but when it's on Match of the Day.
Now we understand. Yeah, right. I don't know why they don't do that. Possibly because, I don't know, because no idea. I've never knowingly watched Match of the Day in my life. But I suspect it's related to the fact that the match that you watch may well be edited. So the time could well be wrong.
Because he kept saying, I don't know if there's going to be more goals, could be like 3 or 4. I was thinking, well, how long's left?
Well, yeah, I understand that, but unless they tell you, you won't know. And if they had a clock on it, as it were, then when they edit the match, they'd have to change the clock. So if they cut out a minute, and it's, just for my simple arithmetic, it's exactly 10 minutes into the match, and something happens that's really tedious, that they're not bothered about, and they don't want to show you, then, such as if somebody's got injured and he's on the floor howling like footballers do, and there's somebody come out to rub his leg so he doesn't cry, that could take 2 minutes. So the match will start again 2 minutes later, and in real time you'll have 12 minutes, but they're going to cut all that out in a recording if they're playing it back, because that's boring, nobody cares, he's fell over, right, let's get on with it. And so they'd have to change the clock as well. So I think that's the reason, but I can't be entirely sure.
Yeah, I understand now. Okay, thank you.
All right. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. How do George?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to speak about 2 items that Alan. It's only small ones. The first one's about in the Antarctic. Do you reckon that a leopard seal is one of the vicious sea things in the sea? Is that correct?
I've no idea. I wouldn't argue with one, that's for sure, but I don't know.
The divers are frightened of them. They go for them.
Crikey.
It was on the news, it was on the documentary today.
Right. Well, if that's what it says on the documentary, my money's on it being right.
Yeah. So you don't know about that, Alan?
I'm afraid I don't. The amount I know about a leopard seal could be written on the spots of a leopard, if you like. I've got very little knowledge of it.
Thanks. And the other one's about the change of the money, Alan. I know the £20 note's getting taken in. Is there any other money besides the £10 note, £20 note?
Well, I don't know about presently. They generally do one note at a time, otherwise it gets confusing, and they will replace them when it is thought that it would be a good idea to replace them because they're starting to get worn. And in the days just until quite recently when it was paper, they changed them more often than they hope they will have to now, because the current notes are plastic, aren't they?
How long did he give it, Alan, on this £20 note we've got on?
I don't know. I don't know. As long as it lasts, really. I mean, they get to a stage because the bank knows what money's coming in and what money's going out. And when the money comes in and it's starting to look a bit shabby, the time comes when the government will consider, well, we need to do something about that.
I see. Okay. So, thanks very much, Alan.
I don't know whether it has a preordained time.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Alan.
All right. If anyone does know, please tell us. It's fascinating stuff. I know they're better, and I know they'll last longer, and therefore in the end will be cheaper. But I don't like this plastic money we get now. I don't like it at all. Because, you could fold a quid or a tenner. You can't fold it. You can. But as soon as you let go of it, it goes blind and springs back like a bloody expensive trampoline. I don't like it at all. But then it's progress, and I really like that. 0800 218 2255. How do, Jacqueline?
Evening, Alan. If you've got any old notes, the bank will change them.
Oh, yeah, they will. Yeah.
I mean, you just say...
Well, there's a time limit. There's a time limit. The ordinary high street bank will change them once they've gone out of circulation. They will change them for a certain time, and after that, you have to get in touch with the Bank of England. But it's quite a long time before that happens.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason why I phoned up, I was looking at something on the red button today about a Grandad. I won't go into the story. It doesn't matter anyway. But they spelt it Grandad. Well, Grandad has got two D's in the middle, like granddaughter. It's your granddad. Otherwise, your granddad is your great-grandfather, isn't it?
I don't know about this.
They're doing it on cards and mugs and, for your granddad. It's your granddad, which is your grandfather. It's not your granddad.
Excuse me a second. Excuse me a second whilst I just look at my dictionary, because I take your point entirely, but I've never seen it spelt with two N's. Granddaughter...
No, two D's.
Sorry, I meant two D's. Granddaughter, yes, but I've never seen... I've never knowingly seen Grandad spelt with one D.
Well,
sorry, with two D. I'm getting my words all mixed up because I'm trying to read at the same time.
But it's your granddad.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying.
Daughter.
I understand what you're saying, and I've not seen Grandad spelt with two D's as your...
I have. It's always it's always that way.
Well, always is such a long time. We've got Granny with two, either Y or an IE. I've got grannies, more grannies, more grannies. Grandstand, the Grand Opera, who cares? There's a lot of grands, isn't there? Grandchain, grandchild. Yeah. You see, grandchild has one D. One D for grandchild.
Yeah, because it's grandchild.
We're moving on.
But the other one is your
grandfather has one D. We're working towards it, don't worry. Grandeur and grandee and granddaughter with two.
Yeah.
And, well, you see, I've just found Grandad, and it's both. According to the Collins Dictionary, you can spell it either way.
Oh. But it doesn't really make sense, does it?
Well, words don't make sense.
If it's your granddad, that's your great
Words don't make sense. Words are just a code. They don't make sense. As long as the job of a word is to tell you what the person is wanting to inform you of. And
yeah, so therefore, if you're grand,
no,
dad.
That's what you think,
Not
and that's fine.
Granddad.
That's fine. That's what you think, but what the dictionary tells us is that there is an alternative. You can have it with one D or both, and if somebody reads Grandad with one D, they'll think, oh, that's the baby's, the father of the father. And if it has two Ds, they'll think, oh, that's the father of the father. So either way will convey exactly the same information. So it doesn't matter. In truth, both words are informal. I'm reading this from the Collins Dictionary. Both words are informal, and it should be grandfather. That, of course, would have just one D.
Yeah. Yeah, so
there
therefore, if it's your grandfather...
No, not therefore.
Then your dad
both.
has another D in it.
No, both. I mean, unless you're saying the dictionary is also wrong, that's fine, but they're kind of the arbiters of words, aren't they?
Or maybe it's just doing to please other people who have been misspelling it for a long time.
Well, the job of a dictionary is to say, you see this word here that you've just read, this is what it means. And when you look it up in the dictionary, it offers you both spellings, implying that both spellings mean the same thing. They may be wrong. They are just a dictionary. What do they know about words?
Yeah, but they have a double D with the granddaughter.
All right, well, I'm sorry. I don't make the rules. I've just given you from the dictionary. Look, listen, I can give you the address of the Collins Dictionary if you like.
No, thank you.
Okay.
It's not a very good dictionary anyway, is it?
Well, it's not perfect.
It's been going a long time.
Well, quite a lot of them have, you know.
Mm. Oh, but have you seen the one about the Russian reservists are likely using shovels for hand-to-hand combat?
I have seen it, yes. My degree of belief of it is not full.
Maybe some have that. Maybe others have guns or whatever. Okie dokie.
All right.
Good night.
Well, it's war.
Bye-bye.
The truth is rarely visible. 0800 218 2255. Are you a granddad or are you a granddad? A granddad. A granddad. You see, there you are. If you separate the two words, he's a granddad. He could just be a very good dad. He's grand him. Oh, look at him. He's a grand bloke. You see, grand bloke, grand dad. Slam it together, granddad, and you've got, he's not a good dad, he's the dad of a dad. And if there's just a one D, he's the dad of a dad as well, despite not enough Ds, not a D for that dad, not a D for that dad, just a one D for both dads. So they're both half a dad. And that's better than no bread. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm laughing at it, but only because I'm sounding utterly stupid and not for the first time. Grandad indeed. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. That they have on Countdown. I've not got her talents. And don't want them either because she's too clever, and being clever, you just end up being very, very busy. However, here we go. Grandad with a single D. Grandad with a double D in the middle. I mean, I know they've all got two Ds at least, because there's one at the end as well, but granddad or grandad. Both are okay. The English from the Oxford Dictionary says Grandad, grandad, is the primary. It then lists granddad, one word, but two Ds in the middle, as an alternative. Which is the right one, which is the wrong one? There are various others. You can have grand hyphenated dad. Grandad, single D as it were, is more popular in the UK, and granddad is more popular in the US. Does that help? Or does it just mean I'm once again demonstrating that I am an utterly boring old fart? 800 218 2255. How do Fiona?
Oh, hello, Alan. I just wanted to say, I just wanted to say I was disgusted with the chap who rang up last night, and all he could do was use foul language. And I think people like that haven't got the guts to say it to your face. Just use a phone to so they can use a sewer language on people. I think very, very disgusting to hear. And also, Alan, I just wondered, are you staying for another year, or do you not know? Or
I don't know. I'm unlikely to know what's going on. The chances of me staying another year are extraordinarily slim. They are almost zero, because they're changing.
No.
I come to the end of my formal term at the end of May, and at that point I would be expected to leave, but it may not come to that. I don't know. But the chances of me being here for another 12 months are minuscule.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen, because it's the only show that I laugh at, when you put somebody down when they're rude to you with some cracking remarks, hysterical. And also, I think there'd be a mass exodus from there, because who else is going to take your place?
Well, we don't know yet, and until we do know, it's best. All I would say is I will go eventually, whether it's in 1 year, 2 year, tomorrow, or what have you. I will go, and somebody will broadcast at this time on a Saturday and Sunday evening. And I would ask, if only out of courtesy for me, which I do not deserve, I would ask that you listen to them for a week or two and find out whether you like them, because, they will be professional people doing a professional job, and it would be kind to give them a chance. Now, you've no reason to be kind to a radio presenter. You either like the person as a broadcaster or you don't, and you make your decision on that. But don't just say, "Oh, it's not him, I'm going," because you might find them riveting. I don't know.
Okay, it's just that I don't think anybody compares with the stuff you come out with. It's funny, intelligent, and sometimes very, very consoling to people. And I don't think there's anybody I can think of who has that except you. But I will do. I hope I don't have to listen to somebody else, but I will give them a chance, because you've got to be kind and give them all a chance. It's a job. It's their job. But if I don't like it, or it's not the same, I think I won't be the only one who hasn't got Friday and Saturday to look forward to as a great form of entertainment.
Fiona, I remember the great words of Terry Wogan. And Terry Wogan used to have on his Radio 2 breakfast programme 6 million listeners. And in an interview, somebody said, 6 million listeners. That's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? And he said, well, it just means that there are 52 million not listening to me.
Oh, I see. Yes, that's I suppose that's a good thing to say, really. But I honestly won't be looking. Well, I just hope you stay another year, and I'll be happy with that. I speak for an awful lot of people.
Well,
I've heard how they praise you, and I know you don't like praise, but you're so down to earth and ordinary and hysterical. Really funny.
All right, well, that's all very kind, Fiona. Whoever sits in this chair when I'm gone, whenever that might be, and I've got no idea when that will be, and I'll say openly, it won't be my choice. They will have decided to make a change, as is their perfect entitlement. But at some point I will be gone. When that is, I do not know.
Well, maybe another year, but not for another year at least.
I don't know. I'll be 75 and a half then. I'll be able to do it. Have a good night. Does it not? Okay, well, have a good night and good to talk to you. But listen, it's awful talking about me. If you want to complain about me, that's fine. I can cope with that. I might learn something from it. But what my employment terms are really is a matter for the bosses. They'll work all that out. That's what they do. That's why they get the big bucks. Let them do that. And us talkers will just come here and talk. And when they say stop, you stop and you go. That's their job. How do Arnold?
Hello, Alan.
What would you like to talk about?
I went out today, got a taxi, and went to a few shops in Asda, the hot pub, the boat. I was in this pound shop out on you go in pound shop?
Not very often, no.
Yeah. I went in and then I come out of the park. I went to what you call a coffee shop. We've got Easter eggs in already in Easter eggs.
I know.
Yeah. So I went in the bookies and Ladbrokes. Come out of Ladbrokes. I wouldn't. The weather is it supposed to be icy weather coming on? You know, on the weather forecast for this.
The weather forecasters are forecasting that Scotland and the northeast of England are to expect icy weather. We in the northwest of England, rather less so, but you know, it's not a precise science.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, is the moon's out now? You know, it's the moon's out.
I can't tell at the moment. I can't see it. When I look out my window, it's in a different part of the sky for the moment.
Yeah.
So I can't say.
Yeah. What can you see looking out your window then?
Nothing. It's dark.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's black. What can we do? A blanket of darkness on.
Pardon?
What happens overnight? It changes a lot, can't it? On.
Yeah.
If anything is going to happen, what happens overnight? Or do you like daylight better than night time? I don't know. Why can't you a day till like 6 p.m?
I find it pointless to choose one over the other on account of them both coming. You get day, you get night. They.
You got newspapers down. Newspapers.
Yeah, I've got one here. I don't know where the others
are.
Yeah,
I'll read a bit today. Liverpool beat Man United 7-0.
No, they did. I do know, yes. That is quite an achievement, which I'm sure Mancunians, or certainly half the Mancunians, will find less than pleasing. But the Liverpool fans will be overjoyed, and rightly so.
Yeah. Liverpool, Kings of Europe, Cop end face throughout Europe, the Cop, roar of the Cop. Liverpool. Used to have a Steve Highway, Ian Rush, Emmeline Crazy Horse Hughes. You pick the ball up in defence, dribble all the way through and you get a goal. John Tosser, he signed from Tranmere, Ian Rush, attack. And more recent season, they had Robbie Fowler, who snorted the baseline, setting off a trend. Fashion, to me, fashion has changed because you look at the football crowd of the 70s on telly, they all had long hair, but now they're all skinheads on football crowd.
No, I've never looked. So.
You remember the old Coronation Street, black and white?
I remember it.
Yeah, kind of. You remember that one? You remember you're a Womble? Wasn't it?
I do. Mike Batt.
No. Yeah. Remember, 5th of November. Way off that. Oh, yeah, happy Paddy's Day for the 17th, anyway. St. Patrick's.
Right. Thank you.
And Mother's Day, yeah, right.
All I know about St. Patrick's Day, apart from the fact that it is St. Patrick's Day and the patron saint of Ireland, is that's the day I have to plant my potatoes.
Yeah. Chips. What would we do without food? Or we starve, wouldn't we? Starving.
I think it's almost certainly the case that we would starve, yes.
Yeah, without water we'd die. Without water
we would die. Without food we would die. Without air we would die.
Oh, air, yeah. I know that, Alan. Fresh air free of charge, isn't it?
In most places, yes.
Yeah, there's no tap on. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. There's a martial law in some countries. Some countries have well, there's not much there. Is Putin a dictator, Putin, or is he a warmonger? Or both?
No, I think it's both.
Yeah, I know. I think President Zelensky's getting a lot of help now anyway with airplanes and tanks.
Well, they're certainly getting tanks. There's talk of them getting aeroplanes.
I wish to send condolences to Betty Boothroyd that passed away on age 68.
She did?
Yeah, send condolences. 68. Was she American, Alan?
Betty Boothroyd?
Yeah.
No, she was a Yorkshire lass.
Oh, Yorkshire, yeah. But when Prince Charles was coronation on? Is it 6th of May?
It's sometime early in May. I don't know the precise date.
Yeah, early May, yeah. What colour socks you got on, Alan? You see your ankles? You got brown socks, huh?
I can't see my ankles. They're under the desk.
Yeah. With your slippers on?
I don't wear slippers.
No. PJ, my uncle was called PJ Brown. I had a lot of uncles, they're all passed away now. My mum and dad have passed away. My dad was 80, my mum was 77. My dad had lung cancer, and my mum died 2011, July 25th, midday, in Oldham Hospital, peaceful and asleep.
Right. Well, Arnold, it's been as fascinating as it always is, so thank you very much. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. Pick up your phone, have your say. As you may have gathered already, you can talk about absolutely anything. We don't stand on much ceremony, but we do stand on a bit from time to time. A quick look at tomorrow's. Yeah, tomorrow, I was just checking the time. Tomorrow's newspapers. Small boats clampdown is unworkable. Sunak's been told. That's The Guardian. And I am your retribution. Trump fires up a base in a bid for the presidency. So Trump's coming back. That's cheered everybody up, hasn't it? Police refer child sex victims to immigration. An anti-strike bill breaks human rights rules. The Daily Mirror front page, 11 million suffer in the NHS dentist crisis. Do you remember when we used to have a National Health Service? But there you are. Those were the days. Also, the Daily Telegraph, Hancock rejected plan to cut isolation. That's Matt, not Tony, although sometimes you can't tell. And the country distrusts Johnson and won't follow his rules, said a top civil servant. But then neither will he, it turns out. 0800 218 2255. How do Oscar?
Hello, Alan. Since we are expecting some sort of announcement regarding the government's attempts to address the boat migrant situation during the course of the next few days, I thought I would call you up and maybe have a bit of a conversation with you about some aspects of that. I'm sort of quite a hardliner on the whole thing, but what I wanted to do with you is try to kind of address things on the basis of the understanding that probably the way I would want to do it is not going to be something which is likely to happen. But I do wonder if there are some little sort of semi-radical things that we might be able to do which would be acceptable on the basis that there are a lot of people who are very concerned about the situation. It seems that something does need to be done, and I think if something could be done, I think it would actually work in the government's favour, because, you know, they're obviously very unpopular at the moment and facing possible defeat in the next election. So I think if they could do something that would actually make a big difference, then I think, you know, they would actually benefit from that in terms of their popularity. Obviously, there's going to be some people who are on the opposite side who seem to almost want all these migrants to come in and be welcomed in, and as many as want to come should be allowed to come. And some people, people who think that way are going to object to anything which restricts the flow of these migrants. So it's always going to be attacked and slagged off, as it were, any kind of step that begins to slow the flow. But there's one thing that we are told one of the reasons that we have to be very lenient with these migrants that come across on these boats is the fact that they have to come this way because there is no legal, legitimate way for them to apply for asylum in any other way. But I was wondering, could they not be offered the chance, and indeed be required, to apply online for asylum in the UK. And with that, there would be a stipulation that you have to make your online application from a location which is outside of the UK. So anywhere else in the world apart from UK soil, you just go online, you register, and you make your application. You state your case online on the gov.uk website, and you say, I'm applying for asylum. And that way, the government can say, we have provided a legitimate mechanism for anyone who wishes to claim asylum to actually claim asylum without having to make this perilous journey, which breaches the borders of the UK.
I suppose what you're saying is that if you provide them with an easier process, then they won't make the perilous journey. But the decision as to whether they make the perilous journey or not isn't related to the application process, it's related to their chances of getting such an answer within a reasonable time.
Well, the time, I mean, it wouldn't need to take long if an application is received online. If you've got people addressing these applications online,
and who would these people be? The abundance of civil servants we currently have, when the government has spent, the past 3 or 4 governments have spent their time reducing the number of civil servants.
Well, obviously you're going to have people doing it, but if you could save a lot of money, which if it prevents the flow, because I mean,
but it would only save the money if it does prevent the flow. And if people apply and are turned down, do you think they're just going to go, oh heck, I best stop where I am then, or are they going to come illegally, as it is claimed they do now?
Well, yes, they may still want to come illegally, but the point I'm making is that the government seems to have hamstrung itself by almost admitting that, well, actually, we can't really offer them an easy legal way. There is that problem, and that means that then they end up with a situation where they have to be regarded more leniently when they do the wrong thing of coming across the channel on the boat. So I'm looking at it from the point of view of the government being able to say that, well, we have done everything that we possibly can do, because, I mean, to me, and to lots of other people like me, the reason why I'm putting forward policies like that are because I want to stop the flow. And then you've just covered one avenue
presumably, if your suggestion was adopted and was successful, it would mean, your version of success would mean there would be fewer people coming to the country. Am I correct in that?
Well, yes.
No. Yes covers it. There's yes, there's no. You picked yes, that's fine. And it would almost certainly reduce the number of people who would be permitted to come, I'll rephrase that to get it accurate. The number of people who would be permitted to come would be considerably fewer than those who wish to come. Will you accept that?
Yes, obviously. You've
so
got
what do you think? Well, okay, yes, remember what I said. Yes and no, that's all we need to say. If you accept it, you say yes, then we've got it. So does it therefore potentially follow that the ones who are told no will think, well, that's right, now I'll do it the other way, I'll go on a boat?
Right, but then when they go on the boat, they would be people who have arrived on the boat having already been told that they're not allowed to come, that they can't.
So Albert Ecklethwaite makes his application and is turned down. So then Albert Ecklethwaite gets on a boat and comes over here, and they stop him and they say, "Hey, you've just got off that boat. What's your name?" He says, "Jim Smith." Well, give us some ID. I haven't got any.
Right.
What do you do next?
Right. Okay. Good question. So what you do next is you have to change the procedure as to what happens when someone comes and lands on the shore, having come across on a boat.
Change that procedure to what?
Well, at the moment, my understanding is that what happens is they come across, and when they breach the border, they have done so illegally. They've come through without having gone through the necessary...
We've got that. There's a clue in the name, illegal immigrant. So what should they do? What should happen that's different?
But then what happens is, because they claim asylum, this is what I'm told, and it's what I'm led to understand, because having done that illegal move, they then say, well, no, I'm claiming asylum. That kind of nullifies, or at least puts on hold or puts on suspension the fact that they have done an illegal act in actually coming here in the first place. So
But that will be exactly the same as it is now.
Right. So
now, what will be different? What will be different? A person arrives on the boat. He was turned down. He went through the process online. Didn't get the answer he wanted. He gets on a boat. He arrives on the shore at Dover. What happens next?
What happens next is that we change that system. I mean, it may be that you wouldn't even.
Just tell me what happens. Just tell me what happens.
You say you're disqualified from claiming asylum.
Okay.
Because you've entered the country without permission, or if it could be shown
that's exactly what the Prime Minister is contemplating attempting to do presently. And
well, he says that. This is what we're waiting to see. But
he could be lying through his teeth. Of course he could. He's a politician. But that's what he says at the moment. And if that is a possibility, and if that gets through legislatively, then fine. But in order for it to get through legislatively, it would have to pass a number of tests, including our nation's belief in the human rights system, not necessarily the European Court of, although we are rather bizarrely, for the moment, I think, still subject to that, but the international law of refugee and asylum seekers and all the rest of it. So we'd have to disobey international law.
I said to you at the beginning that I'm a hardliner on this anyway.
I get the hardliner, but are you sufficiently hardliner to turn our country into international criminals? Breaches of international law.
Its own people and doesn't allow.
You're talking about the result. I'm inviting you to comment on the process. Would you be happy for our country to break its commitment to international law?
It's only
a bit like Mr. Putin, who does it all the time, and China does it all the time. Is that the group you want us to be?
Withdraw from the commitment. Yeah.
Withdraw from the commitment. So remove.
If the commitment is causing us more harm than good,
well, that's debatable. But so as far as you're concerned, we should withdraw from the international treaties that we helped to create.
Once the event.
Is it a yes or a no? Remember, yes, no. Is that what you're saying? Yes, we should.
Well, this is a conversation. Why does it have to be yes or no? Sometimes
because I haven't got all bloody night. So it's not more nuanced. Do you believe
Alan,
you believe? I've got 3 hours. You haven't. So do we withdraw? Because at one moment, a few seconds ago, you said we should. You said we just withdraw from that. That's what you said, and I just wanted to make sure that was what you meant to say. Do you think our nation, in order to achieve the goal that you and apparently the government seeks, should cease to be a party to the international regulations by which we are bound?
Yes,
unless
unless the changes that we make in the system and the law now can have the desired effect. If we can change things so that we can do things in a way that's acceptable to the people of the country,
how do you stop people who are prepared to break the law, a bit like you want the government to do? How do we stop people who are prepared to break the law to come here to choose not to break it? The only way I can see is that everyone that applies online in your system gets a yes, and then none of them will come on the boats, but they'll all still come here. So you've got to give some of them Exactly. So you've got to give some of them the
having
answer.
a situation where everything, if it's an application...
There's no point having one that says yes to everybody. So you're going to have to say no to some people.
Well, what's wrong with that, Alan? If
There's nothing wrong with it.
If they're not legitimate refugees, then you do say no.
Oscar, my difficulty isn't that there's something wrong with saying no to people. My difficulty is, do those people then say, oh, blimey, that's a shame, or do they think, stuff it, I'm going anyway, I'll be an illegal immigrant? In which case, what have you achieved?
What mechanisms do we have for responding to illegal acts, Alan?
Well, we have a number of mechanisms for responding to illegal acts, and those mechanisms are different in the case of each illegal act. But one of the things we have is an unwritten, but nonetheless a constitution, that starts from the possibility of you are innocent until established guilty. So, so these people, these ones that have said, "Ooh, I got a no, but I'm going anyway and be an illegal immigrant," will then have to be dealt with.
So,
as a migrant to our country.
Someone who has arrived in the country and has broken the law, done an illegal act, if you change the law to say that's a very serious offence, easy to prove because you've got the evidence there right in front of you of someone who's here who shouldn't be.
So we've got somebody here who shouldn't be, a bit like now as we call it, a bit like present day. What do you now do? Where do you send that person to?
Detention centres.
Okay, and then when they're in the detention centre, what then? We haven't got any, by the way. They're all full.
What happens to people in prisons anyway? They stay in the prison until such time as they get released.
Yes, they do. And what goes on presently is quite a lot of prisoners. There is a lot of pressure on the prison estate to release people, and lots of people who many citizens would prefer remained in prison are released. These people arrive on the shore. Where are you going to put them? Right now, we have them staying in hotels of various different standards. We have them staying in all sorts. That's how it is. I'm asking you, what will we do? What will we do? Well, what will you change it with? Put them in places that don't exist.
You put them in detention centres.
We haven't got any.
Well, we create some. You get them to create some.
Oh, you get them to create them. So when they get here, it's like the Nazis used to get people to dig their own graves. These people have got to build their own detention centres.
Well, they wouldn't come if they thought they had to do that, would they?
They probably would, actually.
Well, let them come and let them build the detention centres then, at least.
And what do they do while they're building them? Where do they stay while they're building them? Perhaps we should get you to build them, Oscar.
Stay in a tent or something, you know.
Yeah, stay in a tent. Great idea. Brilliant idea. Let's have lots of tents. Where are we going to get the tents? Where are we going to put the tents?
Cheaper to buy a few tents than to have people stay in hotels.
But my question, again, is, where would you put the tent?
You know, Scottish Island or something.
Oh, that's all right then. But so you've now fallen into the. Where else could they go?
And here's another thing that happens when people are.
You said you were going to tell me where else they could go. Where else can they go? I haven't got all night.
Okay.
Let me know when you've got an answer. You said you can't send them to Albania unless Albania says, yeah, we'll have them.
We were going to give money to Albania to help them make Albania a nicer place so that people from Albania wouldn't want to come here.
You can't send people to a country unless the country you're sending them to is prepared to have them.
You send them as prisoners.
You can't send prisoners. You can't send. Oscar, listen to yourself, you barnpot. You can't send people, prisoners or free people. You can't send people to another country unless that other. Listen to the end of the sentence. Unless that other. Good night. I'll do Linda.
Well, hello, Alan.
Hello, Linda.
Hello. I'm going to go because after all that conversation, I'm going to go.
Okay, good night. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone. Have your say. It's dead easy. Unless, of course, you don't want to talk about it. Huh? Get it? Here's everything but the girl they don't want to talk about. Great song. Rod Stewart does it, I think, as well. I don't know whether he wrote it. I have no idea who wrote it.
I can tell by your eyes that you've probably been crying forever. And the stars in the sky don't mean nothing to you. They're a mirror. I don't wanna talk about it, how you broke my heart. If I stay just a little bit longer, if I stay, won't you listen to my heart? Oh, my heart. If I stand all alone, will this shadow hide the colors of my heart? Blue for the tears, black for the nights, fears the stars in the sky don't mean nothing to you. They're a mirror. I don't wanna talk about it, how you broke my heart. If I stay just a little bit longer, if I stay, won't you listen to my heart? Oh, my heart. I don't wanna talk about it, how you broke this old heart. If I stay just a little bit longer, if I stay, won't you listen to my heart? Oh, my heart. My poor heart. My
Not a bad one, is it, eh? I like that one. It's all right. I don't want to talk about it. Not really ideal in my job, but hey, you know, everything but the girl. 0800 218 2255. How do Stan?
Good morning, Alan. I
Good morning.
won't keep you like that bloke about boat people.
Okay.
I won't keep you about boat people like that bloke did going on. I'll just give you a few facts. A few weeks ago, government gave French £65 million from £8 billion to stop them coming over, plus the fact that they'd send some of our people over to help them. So what they're going to do now, I don't know. And I'll tell you what, just a quick laugh. I bet Gal Boy's making some money out of them them rubber boats that's coming over. Somebody will.
Somebody will, yeah. Unfortunately, the person there is almost certainly a violent crook, but, yeah.
Can I just mention driving? I won't, as I say, I won't keep you. I passed my test in 1957, and since then, when I was in my 70s, I went on a advanced driving course. I didn't take the advanced test, but I went on it, and even at 70, I learned some things that I didn't know about really, And then when I was in the 80s, I went on another course that were organised by Lancashire County Council. And one thing I remember about what he told me, which I never realised what we're doing, he said, what you're not doing is you're not doing TNT, tyres and tarmac, keeping your distance.
Oh, so you're too close to the vehicle in front?
Yes, that was it, yeah. And
common fault.
Yeah, well, as I say, but I will say this about all the drivers, as reactions are slower, but we tend to read road further down than what modern drivers do. And even at 87, Allan, I can work them indicators. It's hard work, when you get to 87 working them indicators. But
I know the point you're making. Lots of people don't bother working indicators, do they? I often wonder, when a driver who's passed his or her test, at what point do they decide, right, I'm not going to not going to use my indicators anymore, people can guess where I'm going? When do they make that decision? Because as you say, it's such a challenging task, isn't it? You have to go click.
Yeah, and when they say about driverless cars, people say, "Oh no, I won't," and they will do, because they'll be sat in the driver's seat with their iPad or the telephone playing on it, while cars driving themselves. It's not the same, they won't, because they will.
Yeah, well, eventually, won't we? We'll all be doing it eventually. I don't know whether I actually like the process of driving, so I don't think I'd want a driverless car.
No, I like driving, yeah, I do. But going back to indicator job, now, when I get to a junction, if somebody's coming down the main road, obviously right away, and they're indicated to turn left, I still don't trust them. I wait while they turn corner and the indicator's going.
Right. It's one way of doing it.
I just watch which way tyres are going, and then I know I'm safe to pull out then. That's the thing to Allan.
And you have a good one. 0800 218 2255. My driving instructor always said, if you're waiting to pull out of a junction and somebody is coming towards that junction from your right on the left-hand side of the road indicating left, unless you saw the indicator be switched on, in other words, you see it begin, then be careful. Treat it with a pinch of salt. And I've not had anyone running the side of me yet, but there's always tomorrow. How do, Joyce?
Oh, hiya, Allan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, that's nice. The first thing I want to talk about, what was the last fella on about?
A number of things, the least of which was signalling when driving.
Oh, yeah. Right, well, my driving instructor said to me, I'd sooner be...
Joyce, can I just ask you something? Have you got your radio on?
Yeah.
Will you turn it off? Because you're instead of listening. Oh, you have turned it off.
Yeah. If you'd sooner be early in this world rather than late in the next.
Yeah, I think he means. I think he meant I'd sooner be late in this world rather than early in the next.
That's right.
Yeah, it's an old driving instructor saying.
The thing is,
The thing is? Turns out the thing isn't. 0800 218 2255. How do Christopher?
Hello there, Alan.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, right, great stuff. Oh, what the hell was happening before with that Oscar?
He had a point of view.
Well, he was a barn pot, just like you said. And very, I don't know what to say, Alan. This is the first time on radio. I'm sorry, mate.
All right, don't worry.
Bit of stage.
All right.
Christ, I'm trying to find something to talk about. But
well, did you not think of something before you rang? That's how it usually happens, but there's no reason why it doesn't have to be that way.
I know. Well, what do you think about the Liverpool score tonight?
I'm not a fan of football, but I think it was an extraordinary score and one that I don't think there's a pundit on the planet would have predicted.
No, that's, yeah.
What do you think of it?
Well, being a Liverpool fan, I thought it was extraordinary, like. And do you know what, Alan? I'm so sorry that you're... are you retiring or are you just giving up?
I'm being dumped at some point, like we all are.
Oh. Well, there's no need for that.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, you know, I'm not wanted to put too fine a point on it, but at some point they will tell me to go.
Yeah, I've been listening to you now for about 18 months since my mum passed away.
Okay.
And you've been a great comfort to me on a night time.
Good.
Just
that's
having
nice.
that voice in the background. So, yeah, I'd just like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Alan.
Thank you. That's good. Glad to have been of service, as it were.
Yeah, I suppose that's all I wanted to say, to be honest.
All right. Well, good on you. That's fine. It's okay. It's why we're here. And we'll be here for as long as we can be thereafter. Have a good night, Christopher. Good to talk to you. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. And, you know, you don't need to have some intellectually challenging comment to make. You can just say whatever you feel like. It's what we do here. Carrying on with the national newspapers, and that'll be this morning's newspapers now because it's after midnight. Indeed, it's after 15:15 midnight. We get to the Daily Express. Ending Channel migrant crisis can win the election, says the Daily Express, presumably meaning for the current Conservative Party. Surely you can't snub the King's olive branch, Harry. Oh, yes, he can. If there's money in it, he will. The Times front page, do you really want the job? Then say it with a winning smile. Apparently that's how you win a job. Isn't that good? And Boris Johnson has nominated his father for a knighthood, presumably in his resignation honours list. There you go, keep it in the family, why not? Migrants on small boats to be barred from Britain, says the front page of the Times. The Daily Mail front page, boat migrants to get a life ban. That's not a ban of life, but a ban that lasts a lifetime. Channel migrants will be hit with a lifetime ban on entering Britain again under proposed laws. And Harry can have the use of Frogmore if he accepts the coronation invitation. So if he comes to the party, he can live in the big house, and then when he goes, he doesn't get it anymore. That's how it seems. And who am I to challenge that? Nobody. But who am I anyway? Still nobody. The Daily Star, the big threes, the big threes, Britain as cold as the Arctic, 3 snowstorms to hit this week, and motorists have been put on high alert. There you are. The budget 2023, Hunt and Sunak head for a new tax clash with the Tory-backed benches. And the Financial Times, Beijing's 5% expansion target signals the end of rip-roaring growth. So there. And fears for Credit Suisse turnaround spur big shareholders to offload their entire stake. So that would be interesting for them. And the tide is turning, apparently, according to the Metro. The biggest conservation win ever as the world unites to agree a deal to save the oceans. I think they're equally concerned with the contents of the oceans rather than just wanting to save the water. The water's not really going anywhere. They're on about the things in it, like the turtles and the whales and all of that. You know, they want to save them. And why not save the whale? Save whales.
Morning, Alan.
Yeah,
I just
hello.
wanted to pursue the conversation over the migrants coming into the country.
Okay.
What concerns me is the weakness of our security system and the border control about how these boats actually land here and the progress being monitored of the navigation from France, because it could be carrying, for all we know, it could be carrying a boatload of terrorists. And yet we seem to have, it seems to be like a surprise when a boat turns up at a beach in the south, and what happens thereafter. And secondly, what are the French authorities doing? They must have equally some form of border control. And why are they permitting vessels to leave their country and not being challenged? Because surely with the technology that we have, there must be a heightened state of alert for the national security of reciprocal countries.
Well, first of all, the French, many would argue that the French aren't doing enough to stop people leaving France to become illegal immigrants here. But the French don't want migrants of the type we're discussing any more than we do. So I suppose if they all said, we're going to England, they'd say, oh, you really shouldn't. Oh, go on then. So I don't know it's in their interest. And they already, like many other European countries, have a lot more illegal immigrants than do we. I mean, we have the benefit, if that's what it is, of having water all the way around us, where most of Europe does not. So they have a lot more that kind of migrating, asylum seekers, as it were, than does this country. But of course, France, they do a lot to diminish it. But you can never prevent it. And yes, technology may tell you that a dinghy's just been launched, but you've then got to have something to get there to deal with it. And of course, once it reaches the middle of the channel, ceases to be the France's responsibility and becomes ours.
Yeah, I get that, but it's the busiest shipping traffic lane in the world.
So they say,
understand.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how, where any like with airplanes and the radar that we have, how equally with the technology that they have to monitor maritime activity, why these things aren't just picked up and the relevant agencies, I don't know, the Royal Navy, hook up these boats and tow them back to France.
Well, you can't, you see, because to tow them back to France, you've got to enter French waters, and French will say, where are you going? And they'll say, we're coming to France. What for? To dump these migrants. No, we don't want them, thanks.
Yeah, that's past the parcel then, isn't it?
It's exactly that. I mean, we can't escape, I don't mean you personally or even Oscar, but we can't escape our own arrogance. We seem to think if we say, we don't want these people, we're sending them to you in wherever, then those people, those countries will say, oh, that's good, thanks. Yeah. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them.
No, and which is understandable when you've got domestic issues with the homeless that are over here, which puts greater pressure on the social system and
on the whole nation. I mean, at the moment, notwithstanding that they are illegal, we would welcome with open arms an awful lot of human beings if they would come here and work. And yet this lot of human beings that want to come here and work, we don't want them. It's bizarre. We've got, I'm not suggesting that policy should change, but we've got this ludicrous situation where we've got crops rotting in the fields at a time when food is at one of the highest prices it's ever had, and we haven't got any manpower to lift them. And yet we've got these people who we won't let work.
I've got personal experience of that. In part of my work, I dealt with a potato grower in Scunthorpe in a professional capacity. And when pre-Brexit, we had the East Germans, Hungarians, Bulgarians who would work the fields in Lincolnshire, pulling out potatoes and other root veg.
Yeah.
Post-Brexit, the labour's not there, and the local labour force won't do it.
I went to a meeting, for want of a better expression, in a farm down in the Midlands somewhere, I've forgotten quite where, and they were the farm was actually fruit farm, all orchards, apple picking and all that caper, and they had about 3 dozen caravans. And I thought they had a caravan site, and I said, "Oh, you got a caravan site?" No, that's for the workers. And I said, "What?" And it was foreign workers. The people who came over here, the same people every year, would come over here, pick the apples and go back. Now they don't come, so they've got apples sitting there, rotting and plopping on the grass. They've got nothing to do with them. They're valueless. And I'm not suggesting that that's a solution to migration, but it is bizarre that we're saying, will you please come and work in our country? Not you, we don't want you. It's odd. It's a strange position.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's my observation from what I can see. And, where you've got a willing workforce who want to do the work that we don't want to do, why do we deny them the access? Because ultimately that impacts on the fruit, potato, vegetable market when the stuff rots in the field and there's nobody there prepared to take the low wages to undertake the jobs that pre-Brexit other Eastern migrants would be prepared to do.
There was a farmer on one of the news programmes in the past 48 hours, and he was a potato farmer, and he was saying, I'm only planting half as many this year because I can't guarantee getting them out of the ground, getting them boxed and getting them sent to market, so I'm not going to bother planting them. Now, if every potato farmer decides that, we're going to have a potato shortage.
And then that will add to the inflationary pressures on the economy.
Of course it will. We'll import potatoes.
Supply and demand will determine that. So,
and so, it's all... I mean, I'm not blaming Brexit. Brexit's done. But Brexit has thrown a spanner in the works, and it's going to take... we're talking about crop rotation and all that. It's going to take 4 or 5 years for it to be resolved, and it will get resolved, and that will be fine. But until then, what do we do? And it just so happens we've had 2 massive crises during that, and it's a problem. But it'll solve in the end, won't it? It's got to do.
Well, I think maybe what will happen is there'll be an adopted currency. Like crypto, maybe you pay for things as potatoes.
That's a nice idea. We're going back to barter system. Yeah. I'll give you 3 potatoes for 1 apple. Okay, it's a deal. It's a lovely idea.
Pub for a pint.
Yeah, take a spud with
you. Couple of King Edwards for a pint of beer.
That's the way forward.
And then you'll have a black market when you can grow your own.
Oh yeah, you'd have a black market. Yeah, I was only saying just a few moments ago that I plant my potatoes on the 17th of March because my dad told me that's the right day. He's probably wrong, but he also told me that you should take your trousers down and sit on the floor, and if it's cold on your bum, don't plant them. I'm going with the 17th of March. He never got me to do it, but he tried for about 5 consecutive years. Good on you.
Oddly enough, I've got a potato crop on the go now from last year that I haven't looked at yet. One thing and the other. So,
well, you might be able to help me.
Dig that up. Yeah, well, I might go down my village and to the local pub with a sack full to get a few beers.
Yeah, you could do it. I've got a tub in the greenhouse, and about 7 or 8 weeks ago, I planted some potatoes in a tub in the greenhouse. And unfortunately, the tub's only about 2 foot deep. And I've been earthing them up, as one does. But unfortunately, there's nowhere to put the earth now because the tub is full. And the green bit, the bit we earth up, is now about 3 foot tall. What do I do? Are there taters at the end of that?
There must be, yeah. The very bottom, there'll be something there. If not, maybe a migrant. I don't know.
Have a good night, Bob. Good to talk to you. 0800 218 2255. I've contemplating shoving my hand down and having a grope having a grope around in the soil in this tub to see if there are any potatoes or putative potatoes there. But I've not got around to doing that yet because disturbing the earth's rarely a good idea, even if it is in a tub. But I have a lot of failures. With taters. For 2 years running, and my dad never said anything because he's got a strange sense of humor, did have. I kept some Jersey Royals, and I thought, I'm going to plant these in the greenhouse. So then I can have Jersey Royals with my Christmas dinner. How about that for a treat? So that's fine. I bought a bag of Jersey Royals, about £3 a piece, and I kept half a dozen back, planted them in the greenhouse, nothing. Clearly, I did something wrong. I don't know what, but I did something wrong. And I told my dad, I said, I planted them Jersey Royals. Nothing came up. And he, in his, said, oh, really? I said, no, honestly, nothing. He said, nothing, absolutely nothing. Oh. So anyway, I tried it again the next year. Nothing came up. And I said to him, I've done it again. They still haven't come up. He said, have you thought why? And I said, yeah, I've thought a lot about why. He said, do you want to know why? I said, yes, I do want to know why. He says, because the hybrids, they don't grow. Thank you, Dad. 2 years of my life I'll never get back. Oh, yeah, given he gave me all the life, I guess he's entitled to 2 years. 0800 218 2255. How do John?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. That's Allan, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, good man. First thing, get yourself back to Preston on Red Rose. Get away from them left-wingers in the DBs.
Okay. Well, Red Rose, apart from online, it's just re-begun under different management and a different scheme, but Red Rose doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, does it not?
No.
Me, sitting on the doorstep of the place. Oh, well, now then. Now then, the royal family.
Yeah.
There isn't a more serious royalist in this area anyway, I don't know about the country, than me.
Right.
I am very pro-royal. But,
right.
Having said that, I am dismayed and disgusted at the way they are acting lately. They are a most spiteful family that you could ever wish to be at the top of the country's ruling class.
Right. When you say spiteful...
Definitely spiteful. Nasty. Hello?
Is that all of them, or just a select few?
No, not all of them, but I'll go back to 1937.
Blimey, go on.
Right, the Duke of Windsor.
Yeah.
One of the most sincere people who had high office that this country's ever had. And what did they do with him? Just because the woman he loved was a divorcee. Come back now, 80 years on, and what have we got? We've got poor old Harry there, who served this country, married a coloured girl.
A lady of colour. We don't use that expression, but go on.
Well, all right, but what expression do I...
Doesn't matter, we know what you mean now, so we can move on without referring to it at all.
Right.
But go on.
Now then, the thing is this, that because he's married this girl, he's being ostracised, banished, in fact. And he's having to do his own thing because they're getting at him all the time. He's lost his tenancy for Frogmore Cottage in Windsor. Why? Just because it's not being used most of the time doesn't mean to say that it's not used all the time. They are a nasty family at the moment. The poor old Queen, God rest her, must be turning in her grave.
Well, I guess you could say they're her children, and it's kind of up to her to bring her children up so that they aren't nasty.
Oh, well, I think she's misfired there, and she's very, very disappointed. It gets worse all the time. I mean, how long's she been gone now? What, 3 months, 4 months? And what's happening? You can see the situation. It's actually a disintegration of the family, concerned completely. They're just disintegrating.
And where do you lay the blame? Is it collectively equal, or is it...
Charles had a hard time when his father sent him to Gordonstown. We know about that. And he did his bit in the Navy, and he's a good lad, no doubt about it. But the point is this, he's soft. He's going with the rest of the woke society, as you might say. Consequently, he's being trampled down left, right and centre.
I take your point that you're suggesting that he's soft and a bit woke, and he's sure as hell is woke in many ways, but he's not being soft with Harry, his son, is he?
He's being bloody cruel with Harry.
Right, so, well, it was just when you said he was soft, I was just wondering if...
He's been downright bloody spiteful with him.
But has Harry not been equally spiteful in some of the ways he's behaved, such as... well, washing his dirty linen in public, which is frowned upon heavily in royal circles.
Yeah, but I think that's an alternative that Harry had to turn to, because he'd nothing else. The point is this, he's been stripped of all honours, bar a couple, I don't know which they are, but he's lost more than anything since he came out of the army, and he's had to go to America to get out of it all.
Right. And do you think his coming out of the army has affected him in a way? I mean, I know that Charles was less than pleased when they stopped him being an actual jumping member of the parachute regiment. I know that William was less than pleased when he had to come out of the forces. Harry, as the spare, eventually came out. Do you think there's any connection there?
Well, as far as the fear of jumping out the aircraft is concerned, they needn't have any worry about that. That's my old regiment anyway, the 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment. And I go back to the 50s, 60s and 70s. The thing is this, that Harry has never been allowed to do what he would like to do when he was in the army. I mean, he was doing everything for charity that he could do outside his terms of service.
But do you think he's unhappy because he more or less had to leave the forces, where he appeared to be enjoying it immensely?
Well, there you are, that's right. Yes, I didn't want to leave the forces. I served my full term right the way through as a regular soldier. Harry was doing the same thing. I think he was forced out.
And do you think that's had any effect on his...
Psychologically, yes, I do.
Right.
When you take something from a man who is doing something he loves and passionately loves, and you take it away from him, you're more or less chopping one of his lives out, you know. You can take the man out of the army, but you can't take the army out.
Tell me about it. Tell my wife about it. I accept that entirely. But as a royal, isn't his life different to all of ours in that we have in a strange way, we have an awful lot more freedom than a royal does?
Oh, we do, and we don't appreciate it. This is the problem. We don't appreciate it. But then going back to when this all started, really, with the national royal family, not the good people, the ones who are really spiteful, starting with the Duke of Windsor. They wouldn't do anything to help him over his problem of marrying to a divorcee. What happens today? Everybody's marrying. There's more royals divorced than you can count on your hand.
Indeed.
They had to say, oh no, we're not having that. And who was saying we weren't having that? That crowd down at the dum-dums down in Parliament, Churchill and company. Great man as he was, he didn't support many of the royals.
Well, he was actually himself a member of the aristocracy.
Yeah, sure enough, yes. Yes, very well. Provisionally. How can I put it? He had a better life than most people, no doubt about that. But then again, you know, this hierarchical situation where you've got a two-tier situation where you've got the upper echelon and the lower echelon. The lower echelon are the ones who are doing more, producing more for the nation than the ones at the top mango.
Right. John, okay, thank you very much. John is a royalist, but thinks the current lot, his term, are nasty and spiteful. How do Dave?
Oh, all right, Alan. I was just listening to your friend there about that wonderful Edward VIII. I was just watching a programme the other week, PBS channel, and it was Edward, the Traitor King. By all, if you look at his life, regardless, I mean, in them days it was a different mindset about divorce anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, the time he spent over in Nazi Germany, and then, you know, he was quite happy to be with the Nazi Party, Hitler, and Wallace Simpson was as well. And then when they were in where did they get sent out to? Was Bermuda, was it? During the war, like, to keep him out the way.
Yeah.
He was into all kinds of money laundering scams over there. It was unbelievable. So we, you know, but this fella there, like, saying, oh, they can't, they don't have the freedom that we have. You know, we don't know how lucky we are. You know. Well, you want to tell someone on universal credit how much freedom he's got, you know what I mean?
Yes, that is a different...
It might give you a bit of a different story. What I was going to go on about was our mate Boris and what's the name? Truss. You know, these right-wing politicians, they don't seem to know when to step down, do they, you know? When the game's up, you know, she's running around like she's attending some summit in Tokyo, then she was somewhere else. And, you know, now we got Trump there at his head again. So I'm sure we're going to have our friend in Brazil kicking off soon again. The one who just lost the election. Bolsonaro, is it? But,
something like that, yeah.
It seems to be happening all globally now. These policies, you know, and the thing that with these ones here now, they've all started talking like the Yanks do about we're introducing small government, you know, and we all know the upshot of that was in America, like, you know what I mean? You know, people, we don't want to be paying all these taxes for this and that, but I mean, if it happened here, like, you know, you'd be having that was but already enough crisis with their different things, the NHS care service and care for the elderly and everything else, you know. But I've listened to a few of these conservatives lately, and they're all starting to move this idea about how they'd like to get rid of small government, you know. And then, according to the way Liz Truss is talking, I mean, I think she did a lot of favours by when she, that little opening salvo she did when she got elected about, you know, if we lower taxes, like according to her way of thinking, there's all kinds of investors all hiding around the corner who can't wait to invest in Britain, you know what I mean? And how do you bring in, skilled and high-paid jobs? In fact, they've been the ones who've done the exact opposite, 0-hour contracts and God knows what, But she thinks that's the panacea about this low tax, you know what I mean? So I don't know what your thoughts.
Lots and lots of people want to pay less tax. The very rich, of course, don't want to pay any. So,
but by and large, they don't do the relative to what your average Joe in the street, and they're paying a lot less. The rich ones, aren't they? They always have them.
Well, they're not paying less, but they may well be paying a smaller proportion of their general income, but they pay an awful lot.
Earning, yeah, but relative to what they're earning, percentage-wise, if you worked it out, your average Joe in the street's probably paying a higher percentage of his income out than the rich ones, you know what I mean? Because you got so many scams going for them where they can claim for everything and nothing, can't they? You know what I mean?
Well, they can only claim in exactly the same way as you can, but of course they but they of course can move money around the world, and if you haven't got any money, you can't.
Yeah, but I mean, there's certain things. I mean that they can, you've only got to say they're giving so much to charity, and that's exempt from tax, but you can claim on that, can't they? You know what I mean?
They can get it, but so also can you.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, but your average Joe on the street can't exactly put too much in. We were talking about proportions. The fact that you can't doesn't mean you're not entitled to. I mean, not having the money. You're not entitled to, but relatively speaking, most people, do throw the odd tenner in here and there or whatever. You know what I mean?
But if a very wealthy person gives a lot of money to charity, how is that offending anybody? The charities may well not exist.
Some big, I forget who it was now, this European guy who was mega rich, he said, forget about paying into charities, just pay your taxes, and then we won't need to have charities.
Well,
if you just paid the fair whack in taxes, we wouldn't have to rely on charities. I mean, you look at it on the TV, daytime TV, I have to tell you, we're bombarded, absolutely bombarded. They're not trying to tell you how to get yourself buried or cremated on the cheap. My God, I tell you what, I mean, did every quarter of an hour from like 6:30, I mean, everyone's heard about cheap cremations at 6:30 in the morning and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Well, clearly somebody does, else they wouldn't be putting them on there. But
the point is, you don't have no bleeding choice about it because they're bombarding you. But this guy said this, he was this big European, he was worth mega bucks. And he turned round, it might have even been that Carnegie fella, but he was Scottish. But anyway, he turned around, he said, just pay your taxes. That's all. Don't flim-flam around about all this. Oh, I'm putting this into charity. That's just a bleeding scam. You paid the fair whack. A lot of things that get done. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, the rich should pay their taxes and not give money to charity. Fine. I'll do. Thank you very much, Dave. I'll do Lyle.
Hello, are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I need to tell you down. That's it. Yeah, tell it down and I can hear you then, can't I? You're all right, Alan.
Yeah, you need to turn whatever it is that's on in the background off. Down doesn't cut it. It needs to be off.
Okay. I can hear you. Was that better?
Well, sounds all right for the moment. Let's see. What do you want to talk about, Lyle?
You okay, Alan, mate? I've not, I spoke to you, it was quite a long time ago anyway, though, but I am pretty sad if you're not going to be on the radio no more, though, because you are a really good man, and you warm so many people's hearts. Quite nice, you know.
All right, thank you. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Feel free. You know, I'm not going anywhere yet. I don't know when I'm going anywhere. And everything comes to an end, good, bad, or indifferent. And I'm no special case in that. One day I will not be sat in this chair, and that's fine. According to some parliamentarians, this just gave me... I sometimes get pictures in my head from stories. And I got one from this. You know when the pandemic was on? And Matt Hancock, it's him again, yeah, I know. But, well, there were lots of ideas submitted as to how the public could be protected from the transference, the cross-infestation and all the rest of it, of the pandemic. And one of the things that was discussed, and I found this extraordinary, one of the things they discussed was killing all the cats. Well, cats, and we've had this conversation for another reason, but cats are not like dogs. They wander off on their own. They do. Our next door neighbour at the moment is away on holiday, and their cat comes to our house for a warm. Because people go in and feed it, but it comes out, I think it was a bit nippy, and I'm going next door, and it sits at our door going, ah, ah. And we sometimes let it in for a warm, why not? But cats, they do what they want to do. They roam about the countryside, and so could, of course, if they were carriers of a illness, they could be carrying that about the place. So the government apparently actually considered killing all the cats in the country because it was thought that they would or could carry the virus. And, you know, you're wondering perhaps what the image was that I saw. And the image it created was hundreds of sweet old ladies sitting in their rocking chairs in Parliament Square, knitting effigies of Matt Hancock. I just, oh, he's not taking my cat. That's the one that did it. He did it. He did it. Mabel, he's the one. Knit one pearl one, yeah, but make sure it looks like him, and then we're going to burn them all together. I'm not suggesting for one moment that only little old ladies have cats. We used to have cats, and I'm neither old. Actually, I am. I'm not a lady. I'm not even a gentleman. But just, you know, the image of little old ladies is sitting there by the fire, in it, with their knitting and their cat on the lap knitting away. And I just thought, if they said we're coming to kill all the cats, there would be hell to pay. 0800 218 2255. Do you want to join us? You've got 4 minutes anyway. I'll do Mike.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I'd like to talk about the King's message this year. What I missed was with the Queen, when she gives the Christmas Day Queen's message, she always used to give a bit of a gospel, you know, a bit of a hope for all like the world, people with mental health issues and people with problems, and she always gave that message because she was like a committed Christian, you know. But this year, I know he was grieving over his mother's death, but it was more of a multicultural message that he gave. And that's what I miss about the Queen. She always gives like a bit of a gospel message, a message of hope from her very strong Christian faith.
But why do you think that the King failed? It failed is perhaps more harsh than you want it to sound. Why do you?
I think.
What did he not do? What should he have done?
I think it was because of the circumstances. Just lost his mother, and that was the main sort of subject of his speech. But I think he will have a rethink about that, and next year's message will be hopefully in line with the Queen's visions and values. Back on the Christian pathway, if you like.
But he's much more of a, despite one presumes being the head of the Church of England, he's much more of a supporter of multi-faiths.
Yes, I would say so, and I would say maybe he feels obligated in that direction. But
maybe he just believes it.
I don't know, but I think whether he's brought up and educated in the Christian faith, maybe he's slipped a bit, and maybe he's lost the visions and values of his mother and of the Church of England's Christian pathway faith, if you know what I mean. But anyway,
but he said all the time when he was, as an adult, he said, when I come to the throne, I want to be the leader of all faiths and none. That's who he is.
Well, that's probably a population that's probably a popularity sort of thing.
It could just be that he believes it. He could just believe that multi-faith is good.
Or maybe he doesn't have a faith. Maybe that leads.
Well, he is a Christian. Whether he's as devout as his mother was, I don't know. But certainly he's a Christian. But believes that all religions are of equal merit.
Maybe that could change. But a lot of people believe all religions are of equal merit. But having said that, talking about the...
We're going to have to go, I'm sorry. I would love to talk to you for much longer on that subject, but I can't on account of me having to stop. I'll be back Saturday at 10. Having Beswick, you've been brilliant. Ta-da.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Sally Johnson. The Refugee Council says the government's plans to stop people crossing the English Channel in small boats will lead to tens of thousands of refugees being locked up like criminals. New laws are expected to be published on Tuesday, stopping anyone who arrives in the UK this way from claiming asylum. Ministers say the law has to be toughened. Jane Mercer, who's an immigration lawyer, thinks that's the wrong approach.
It's horrific. It's very frightening. Nobody chooses to flee their home. They're forced to flee their home through circumstances beyond their control. They come to try and find somewhere safe, and yet they find themselves in a position where they might be put into prison just for seeking safety and to be victimised again.
Current and former Twitter staff have told BBC Panorama that the company is no longer able to protect users from online abuse, state-coordinated disinformation and child sexual exploitation. New data analysed by an anti-extremism think tank suggests there's been a rise in accounts following misogynistic and abusive profiles since the platform was taken over by Elon Musk. Twitter says defending and respecting users' expressed opinions is a core value. The Unite Union has called off strikes by ambulance workers in England today and on Wednesday to enter pay talks with ministers. Two other ambulance workers' unions, Unison and GMB, had already paused their walkouts. The authorities in Greece have taken a station master into custody for his alleged role in a train crash that killed at least 57 people last week. The man, who can't be named under Greek law, is charged with crimes including putting lives at risk. His lawyer is Stefanos Pantsatsidis.
The accused said everything. He told the truth. He was devastated.
He said exactly what happened without fear that his words would make him bear more responsibility. If there is evidence that constitutes criminal offences against him from what he said, it is something that justice will decide.
The head-on collision has sparked widespread anger and protests, with some people blaming the Greek government for the disaster. A year ago, one of the most famous ships of all time, Sir Ernest Shackleton's Endurance, was discovered, perfectly preserved at the bottom of the sea in Antarctica. Since then, experts searching for the ship's insurance policy have found the document and say it holds the key to future conservation plans. Jonathan Amos has the details.
The story of how Sir Ernest Shackleton and his men escaped Antarctica after their ship was crushed by sea ice in 1915 is astonishing. Almost as remarkable is that anyone should find the wreck, given it's almost 2 miles deep. Recently, the Endurance 22 expedition team has been searching the archives of Lloyd's of London for the lost book that records the sinking. The way the insurance policy was paid out means Shackleton's granddaughter, Alexandra, is the wreck's owner. And with a conservation plan now under discussion, she says she doesn't want...